Hello, storytellers, storytelling Ron. Is 5e deluding us? Fantasy? I just feel like we're really missing out. I mean, with us, and I like making up stories, making up settings and stuff like that. So don't get me wrong. But man, I just did not know a bunch of history and just love reading about history now. And especially for us Christians, we're missing out on a lot of history, or maybe it's just me and you guys already know all this. But I've just, with D&D and other role-playing games, and Marvel and Star Wars, we're also fascinated, and I am too, by all these stories and how we make up these worlds and all this stuff. But then we're not seeing historical stuff. And I think the reason, or my conspiracy theory here, is that so much of it has to do with Christian history, the struggle of Christianity to bring about the life that you and I have right now. All these inventions, all these things by white men, colonizers, all these things that we have and enjoy and love, is the foundation of all of that is Christianity. And I think we don't want to say that. We want to hide it. We want to ignore it. Everything that is invented today comes from a Christian world that I'm aware of. I mean, there might be, I don't know, strudel or something. I don't know, something. Well, that's actually German. So, but you know what I mean? There's, like, for instance, the Japanese, all the stuff that they love and enjoy is made by white guys. They do films, they do comic books and manga. All that, the printing press comes from white guys. They love baseball, and I'm fine with that. They wear suits. I love the Japanese culture. I mean, they did the koi. I'll give them that. Goldfish, and I love koi. I have koi in my yard. I have goldfish in my backyard. So I'll give them goldfish. Or that's the Chinese. Anyway, whatever. But I want to get to this. The point I'm making here is that we've lost our way as far as knowing true history and Christian, which is Christian history, that has built this, given us the love, the fantasy. The fantasy that we all love and enjoy comes from Christianity. It comes from the struggle of Christianity and paganism. But we have removed Christianity and only done paganism. And to me, it's getting very vapid and wacko and uninteresting. It's getting so weird and esoteric that there's no value, virtue in any of it anymore. It's all sort of nihilism. The role-playing games now, I guess they're meant to be fun and silly and entertaining, which is fine, I get. But there's definitely a loss of heroics in it now. It's all like just nihilistic silliness, whatever. And I want to say I'm 54. I never really wanted to be a Christian until I became Christian around 40ish. Before that, I always, I was raised Catholic, and I sort of had sort of that romantic view of a Jesus and of God and of the voices in my head, but I never went to church. I never wanted to bother with that. I enjoyed the Christmas and Easter and all that. That was fun, whatever, I get people go to church. I'll go to church once on, check it out. But I was not a Christian. I did not know who Jesus Christ was. I did not know the Bible. I avoided it all. And here's why, I think. Here's why, here's why. I'm going to switch over to this. So one of the biggest movies as a kid that I loved, aside from the boxy ones, which I guess that maybe removed me away from Christianity, I don't know, is Dragon Slayer. Dragon Slayer was just an amazing movie. But, and I made another video about this, but this is the story that stole from a Christian legend. And that really annoys the heck out of me. And I'm really annoyed by this film. As much as I enjoy this film, even today, I still enjoy this film, but I hate it too, because it takes from a Christian story and and makes the Christians like fools. It was a St. George and the versus the dragon. It was a story about a Christian knight who went to a pagan village, saw that they were doing a lottery and killing the children. He fought the dragon to end the lottery so that they would be free of this. And it was so it was a macho Christian warrior who and that is like a symbolic and an allegory for what Christians did across Europe. And I even read that the knights loved this story, and it influenced them to become knights and become brave and to do what is right and to be chivalric. And this film completely fails, or actually turns that around and makes you and me hate the church, hate Christians, because it makes it so that the pagan D&D player is the hero. The wizard is the hero in this film, and it makes the Christian the fool, like the stealer of glory, which really ticks me off, because it shows this guy, there's the Emperor Palpatine here in his early role. There's a scene in here where he comes up and tries to defy the dragon with the people there, the villagers, and they pray, and the dragon just burns them. And it's a big, long scene, and I remember as a kid going, oh! I remember in the theater, we all like scoffing at Christianity because of this scene. And then later on at the end, they really do something else that really sealed this lie. They made another villager, after the wizard and the boy, the apprentice kills the dragon in this movie, then a villager takes up the cross and sort of like pretends, oh, he's stealing the credit from the wizard, for killing the dragon or whatever. It was really, this Disney film really, to this day, I'm just like, what a bunch of bastards. I want to swear and cuss at them for doing this. And for me being deceived by this film because it was such a great film. Made well. The dragon was amazing. The production value of the dragon back then was amazing and looks great even today. And I remember it being in all the Monster magazines and all this stuff. And here we are. And the real story, the real legend, which influenced Christians across Europe, had them fight against the dragons of the day, and influence them to be brave. And then this film is doing the exact opposite. So stories are incredibly important to us as Christian, or to the world, to our mindsets. So that's why I'm called Storytelling Ron. Stories are incredibly important. They influence us to do stuff. This film influenced me to get away from God till I was 40. Of course, God is never going to allow Disney or anyone else to take away his chosen and his children. But this film did tarnish me for many, many years. Another one is Oh God. Oh God actually is a very, I don't know, I'm going to tinge on a little bit of anti-Jewishness here. This is, comedian. I liked George Burns. I liked him as a comedian. He's Jewish. He was very strong in Hollywood. He was on a lot of TV shows or whatever. He plays God, but the God that represented here is like Jewish and secular. So the secular Jew, not the true Jew, the secular Jew. And they made him that. And guess who was the villain in this movie where he shows up, shows up to John Denver and says, "I want you to do something for me, to save the world or whatever, change the world." And the villain is this guy in this film. And Servino guy, the actor, he's, like a televangelist on TV. He's like all rich and pompous and all that. And so this film too, when I was a kid, I remember watching this in the movie theater, and it was a very popular film. It was popular. And I think a lot of Christians went to this film thinking that they would get their kids to love God. And obviously, in the God though that represented here is not the God of the Bible. The God represented here is a secular, lovey-dovey, whatever God. I don't know. But they made it so that you hated the church. You hated Christians. I did not want everyone to go to church because I always saw this guy in my mind. And when I was a kid. And the ending of this film, this guy is still the villain at the end. He wants to, pretend he's whatever. But the motif here is obviously Christian, the villain. And the good guy in this is John Denver, just sitting around, wanting to do good, right? Wanting to be good and whatever. So that was really frustrating, or whatever. What I'm trying to tell you is that you, as a kid, may have also had all these insidious, insipid things influence you that made you mistrust the church. Here's a point. I've never seen a film or TV show that represented millions? No, 10 millions, tens of millions, no, hundreds of millions of Christians in America go to church weekly, or back then at least in the 80s and 90s, maybe not today, go to church weekly or daily, or go on Bible studies, have fellowship, all of this kind of stuff that affect their lives, that create the Western civilization we have today. The church did this, whether Catholic or Protestant. You go to church, it affects your daily work, it affects your daily life, it affects how you are with your families, with your wives, it affects everything. I've never seen a film depict a church where you go to resolve issues, deal with things in the story. That happens all the time in America, across America. I'm not talking about today, I'm talking about the 80s. I don't know about today. I do that. I go to church, I deal with things. I am in fellowship with Christian men, and I have changed dramatically because of it. But I have never seen a film depict that, or depict the evangelism or strength of a church in a community. Never. I've never seen a movie like that. I've never seen a TV show represent that. All the TV shows are secular. If there is a God, it's going to be like this dude, just talking about personal goodness, personal works, being good, having good works. There's never been a Christian, and I'm talking like, I might do another video, but even in Christian shows like on PureFlix, I know for a fact, based on inside info, that they make they have a formula. And it's always about the person, the person's own personal journey into Christ. I need Jesus. That's like the finality, climactic of every PureFlix show or movie or whatever. And I find that interesting. What I've never seen, and I'm talking secular or in the Christian stuff that I have seen, I've never seen a church culture where they're fellowshipping and dealing with issues in their lives and evangelizing. Never seen that. Never. Yet, at least back in the 80s, nearly 80 to 90% of people were dealing with that in some form. Never seen that in any of these. Not in a Dragon Slayer, not in a modern film, nothing. Never seen it. Yet it has happened in history, and it was constant throughout the medieval history. Constant. The growth of medieval Europe exploding, becoming what it has become, never depicted. They're always depicting the wars and the depressing parts and the plagues and all the negative stuff. But yet in between all that was peace and prosperity and explosions. Here's something that you guys, the pilgrims that went to Jerusalem during this period and the Crusades and all that, the pilgrims was huge. It was a widespread across Europe. And that is not depicted in any film, yet it was huge. It was over hundreds of years and thousands of years, because I've never seen a movie about them. Think about this. The Europeans during this old dark medieval ages of oppression and suffering, they could take a year or two out of their lives to go to Jerusalem. Can you do that? Can I do that? Can any of us take a year out of our life to go to Jerusalem and, do a pilgrimage? Yet thousands of millions and millions of people back then did it. How can a suffering, oppressive culture of depressing dark ages and wars and famines and blood, how can millions and millions of people in Europe voluntarily stop what they're doing for 1 or 2 years? Because you got to have wealth to do it, and then go visit Jerusalem. And that was a huge reason why there was a Crusades, Templars, Hospitaliers. All the entire premise of that was because of this traveling to Jerusalem to visit the Christian sites. That is not depicted in these freaking films. Oh, I'm going to get to that right here in a minute. Okay, let me go to this film, though. Silver Bullet. I love this film. When I was a kid, man, this was so creepy and scary. It is. I don't even know how I was able to watch this. 1985. But I watched it. We kids had access to all these R-rated movies. It was I love this as a wolf, film. It was really cool. And guess who the villain is? Oh, there it is. It's the priest. So they make this guy the villain in this. He's the wolf. Yeah, sorry, I ruined it for you. I don't care. It was pathetic. And they show him all like, forgive me, God, and preaching. And this is, of course, they're showing him preaching in a church, and everyone in there is depressed. And even like in that Last of Us film, they show the Christians as being depressed and squalor, and the communists were succeeding, the little communist community. Hollywood is doing this. They're doing it because they have no choice. When you are not of God, you are of evil and wickedness and deception. And deception is the biggest one. These people are willingly pulling that lever, voting for tyranny. They're willingly doing it. They don't want to vote for Republicans or Christians because they don't offer women's health care. Oh my! I can't vote Republican. They don't offer women's health care. What? I'm going to vote for tyranny and crime and huge taxes and corrupt Democrats and all these things because they don't have women's health care. They're literally Democrats and the people of wickedness. And by in this harshness, I'm saying I got my own family members who I love and treat, because Jesus said, "You love the enemy." Even my own family members are the enemy. And I'll say that. See, I don't mind saying sin, but I also have a rule. I have to love the enemy. You don't have that rule. Oh, you say, I don't have any enemies. Yeah, but you can hate people and you can destroy them. I, as a Christian, can't hate people and destroy them because of Jesus. But you don't have any enemies. I don't have any enemies. I'm an atheist. I don't have any enemies. But yeah, you will destroy people. Yeah, okay, whatever. Don't get me started. Okay, so the Kingdom of Heaven movie. This is really, this film really pisses me off. And it's supposedly in the director's cut is a little bit nicer, I think. You know, a little more better depiction. I don't know. I think I've watched it. I don't really know. But this one, I remember watching it, and there were so many scenes in there where anti-Christian and anti-Catholic, and outwardly, and the sort of nice Christian stuff were all sort of like your individual little, that thing. What's your own little journey to peace? You know, that patheticness is what the secular Hollywood will do, but they won't do a church. How does the church affect the people? How is it the center of this love and passion and compassion and forgiveness that Islam does not have, the secular and pagan world does not have? The church is what has chivalry, and chivalry says honor the lady, and that honoring of the lady is incredible. No other religion, Islam does not have honor the lady, honor the woman. Okay, Islam does not have that. Pagans do not have that. The knight was supposed to honor the lady, and in that then all men began to honor women. All peasant men saw these chivalric rules of the knights, and they looked at their own peasant women, and they realized, oh, I need to honor the lady. That is not in paganism. In your secular world, there's no honor for women. There's no chivalry. Chivalry comes from the church, for crying out loud. And you all, and I hear like women today are like, well, there's chivalry is dead. That chivalry is dead. Well, what are you talking about? You don't even go to church. How do you expect to have chivalry when you don't even go to church? You don't even expect the men around you to go to church. That's how pathetic this is, you know? Don't get me started. I am gonna. So Kingdom of Heaven, they even have the burning bush scene where he throws a rock or flint and it lights a bush. And he's like, see, it's not in the Bible lies. You know, like there's that scene. There's, and the whole Saladin scene. Saladin, I get that him and the one king have a bro love, the French king and him have a bro love. And so the French king described an incredible relationship that they had together. And I understand Islam does have a kind of a respect your enemy only when you can't defeat them. Otherwise, stab him in the back. But Saladin, he ended horribly amongst his own people. He ended like historically, we know he ended like betrayal and I don't know what it was, torture. I don't remember. I remember reading, going, "Wow, what a loser." Anyway, whatever. I'm just ticked. And they show the Templars being villains in this film. They show them killing women and killing, I don't know, Saladin's sister or whatever in the scene, like they're murderers. This is so ridiculous. You know, the Templars they left an incredible, indelible, whatever, historical, lasting effect on the world. They invented international banking. They invented the credit system so that the pilgrims could deposit in France, and then the knights would handle the money when they got to Jerusalem, so that they wouldn't steal, lose all their money as coins and in their traveling. So the knights invented international banking so that the credit in France worked as a credit in Jerusalem, and they didn't have to carry the money. You know, that's the amazing thing about this. That was one of many things that the Templars had figured out to help the pilgrims, as well as protect them from the brutality of Islamic murderers. They had a lasting, indelible effect. I remember this guy. I remember this guy in my fighting. He talked about how the tradition was to give out a white belt when you became a knight. Like if you traveled to Europe and fought there and then back, you get a white belt as a knight, because that's what the white belts were in Europe. And he he started giving out a black belt. He goes, "I give out a black belt to people that deserve it because the Asian, the martial arts guys, they never washed their belts, so it got all black and dirty, or what, and so it showed their whatever." And at the time, I'm like, wow, that's pretty interesting. That's very sort of brainwashingly interesting. Then now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, what a bunch of losers. They don't wash their belt. Two, what did have the Kung Fu masters? What lasting effect have they had on culture? Communism? I mean, Kung Fu movies? What is their lasting, like, what have they done for culture? I don't know. I mean, maybe you can educate me. But I know that the Templars, the Knights of Europe, have done an incredible amount of stuff that influenced culture. I mean, an incredible. And they even like knight societies today, secular. I mean, not secular, but not combative. But they have the lasting effect of chivalry. I mean, they have the lasting effect of the banking system. They have the lasting effect of ownership of lands and how they worked across states. And I mean, they did all this like incredible stuff that we just take for granted today. That, you know, and I need to do more studying on the Templars about all this stuff, but it's not my wheelhouse at the moment. But I will get to it eventually. I mean, I did study it a lot, but it's not in my mind right now. Anyway, so this is like, my point is that we don't have the real history of Christian history, and we are sort of being, you know, we're forgetting it because we're obsessing with all this other silliness, Marvel, Star Wars, Dungeons and Dragons lore, you know. And, I mean, I watch a lot of videos. All the things that could pop up on mine are 5e, you know, D&D, and everyone talking about 5e. And I'm trying to switch them out to Christian history or history about actual history, you know, on the YouTube feed. And learning more about that. And then, but I'm just, so that's my thing. I'm trying to reawaken, especially in any of you guys out there that are 5e and that are all in this. You gotta, you know, especially you Christian men, that's my thing now. We gotta have a Christian RPG that looks back at all this stuff and looks at how missionary work was done, how evangelism is done. I just did a Christians in Space one, which is in the future, but it was pretty amazing because they had to deal with slavers and they were throttled. Like the players were like, we don't know what to do. And I'm like, cool, because that's exactly what missionaries back in the past did not know what to do, how to deal with this. They couldn't just fight everyone and say, stop slavery. The people, it was indelible into the whole entire culture. It was, you know, it was ingrained in them. So I think, and to me, that's very enlightening to see that, because then you know true history. You know what doing evangelism in a role-playing game is exactly the mirror of history, and that's exactly what the medieval Europe is and was. It was evangelism, missionary work, constantly. The clerics, the priests, complained in letters how much paganism there was throughout medieval history. It wasn't just in the past or early on. In the 14th century, there was so much paganism. Everyone was just so pagan, and they were still dealing with that then. And we're just pretending that, everything was Christian in Europe, and so it's all their fault for whatever, all the bad stuff. No, there was plenty of pagans, you know, 80, 70% all practiced some form of paganism, even if they went to church. So I mean, that's kind of based on my read of what it was. So yeah, so that's my take on how my brain has been dulled because of all these films, and I'm avoiding Christian. I avoided the church. I avoided Christian history. And here I am at 54, sadly. And I, you know, I've been doing some before this, but getting excited about it again. And that's why I'm doing this for the Lord RPG, to try to awaken that in myself and in you, to realize that, you know, we're being sort of brain addled by all this makeup stuff, which I like. And don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to dog it. I'm just saying we've erased, though, the Christian history. We've completely erased it. And all we're doing is D&D, you know, and all these sort of made up games and made up settings and thinking they're cool. But the real cool thing is history, man. I mean, what men did in the past, that's really freaking cool. And that's what I'm trying to do now, as far as making games and stuff. And I'm annoyed because a lot of the games that I look at based on history, they remove the Christian, they remove the Christianity. They remove it. It's so cowardly and vapid and pathetic. And I'm done with that. I want the Christian history. I want the full throttle of what happened. The African Squadron was Christian. The Royal Navy African Squadron was Christian. They were Christian there. The tombstones had their Christian faith on it. You know, their families made their tombstones. They gave their life to Christ to do what they did. There were official chaplains for every boat, for the boats, but only like the big boats had the chaplains, and it was difficult to get chaplains. You're not going to have them for the smaller ships that just, you know, everyone had to have a job. But they had an official chaplain for all the ships. So it's Christian. And if you have an official chaplain for a ship, you're Christian, you know, whether you can get one or not. And they, and I know as a Christian, I know that these men on these ships had many, many days at the sea and waiting around to ambush the slavers. I know they were had Bibles out. They were doing Bible, singing hymns or doing Bible study or whatever, praying, dealing with their fears and getting courage to do what they had to do. I know they had Bibles and were doing that because I, as a Christian, know that because that's what I do. And that is not depicted in film at all. It's never depicted. It's very frustrating, very annoying. Yet that was what was going on all the time. So, For the Lord RPG is a game where I'm bringing that back into the RPG culture because that's what I love and know and my psyche is is all about. So please join me. If you're a Christian man, you got kids, you got adult kids you can play this with, you got family, you got friends, become a grand minister, a GM. I will contact me. I will do a playthrough with you so you can get a feel for it because it's really easy. The rules are light and simple. The game is this big and the rules are only about that many. The rest is kind of extra fluff, which is not even that much. And I'm getting these printables. I'm doing that right now. I'm getting finalized PDFs on my website. And if you're a youth pastor, I will send you stuff for free. So I'm going to figure that out. I don't have it on my website yet, but it's definitely something I got to do. If you're a youth pastor and you want a game to try it out with your kids or the in the church, especially if you're a small church, I will send you everything you need for free. And I'll pay for it myself, whether it's a print or PDFs or whatever. Okay. That's it for now. And remember, the game of life, roll holy dice.